Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare वृक्षवल्ली आम्हासुररी वनचरे, वृक्षवल्ली आम्हासुररी वनचरे, वृक्षवल्ली आम्हासुररी वनचरे, वृक्षवल्ली आम्हासुररी वनचरे, पक्षिः सुस्वरे आलवेति, पक्षिः सुस्वरे आलवेति, पांडुरंग हरि जय जय, पांडुरंग हरि, 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 पांडुरंग 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 विठ्ठला, पांडुरंग 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 विठ्ठला, विठ्ठला 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 जय जय पांडुरंग हरे, पांडुरंग हरे,
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to you, Chant. We're so happy to have you here today. Just a few quick announcements. I'm sending some links in the chat if you have anyone you would like to invite, or if you'd like to sign up for a 5-minute talk. But without any further ado, would anyone like to nominate someone for a prayer? I'll nominate my name twin Parth.
Hare Krishna. Can you please post the format? Okay, thank you. My dear Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji, if you so desire, please make sure that everybody has love of Godhead, same way how Nityanand Prabhu went door to door preaching to everybody so that everybody could have that love of Godhead. Thank you for considering my request.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. That was such a sweet prayer. And as we know, we were celebrating Nityanand Trayadashi yesterday. So it's extra special. And without further ado, we can do our chant for the day. And I'll hand it off to Chaitanya.
Hare Krishna. Let's get the chat up the screen. Can everyone see the screen? All right. All right. Let's get a couple volunteers to do the verses, and then we'll go back through the translations. All right. I'll do that. Okay, we can do the translations afterward, then I'll just go through the verses. Rupam maharte bahuvaktra netram mahabaho bahubahurupadam bahudaram bahudam shrakaralam drishtva loka pravyatithasthathaham नभस्पृशं दीप्तमनेकवर्णं व्यात्तानं दीप्तविशालनेत्रं दृष्ट्वा हि त्वां प्रव्यथितान्तरात्मा धृतिं न विन्दामि शमं च विष्णो दंष्ट्राकरालानि च ते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलसन्निभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्मा प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास अमी च अमी च त्वां धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्रः सर्वे सहैवावनिपालसङ्घे भीष्मो द्रोणसूतपुत्रस्तथासौ मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यै वक्त्राणि ते त्वरमाना विशन्ति दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि केचिद्विलग्ना दशनान्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमाङ्गै यथा नदीनां बहवोऽम्बुवेगा समुद्रमेवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति तथा तवामि नरलोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राण्यभिविज्वलन्ति यथा प्रदीप्तं ज्वलनं पतङ्गा विशन्ति नाशाय समृद्धवेगा तथैव नाशाय विशन्ति लोकास्तवापि वक्त्राणि समृद्धवेगा लेलीयहस्येऽग्रसमानसम्मताल् लोकान् समग्रान् वदनेर्ज्वलद्भिः तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत्समाग्रं भासस्तवोग्रः प्रतपन्ति विष्णो आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपो नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञामिष्यामि भवन्तमाद्यं न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम् श्रीभगवानुवाच कालोऽस्मि लोकक्षयकृत् प्रवृद्धो लोकान् समाहर्तुमिह प्रवृत्तः ऋतेऽपि त्वां न भविष्यन्ति सर्वे एव स्थिता प्रत्यनिकेषु योधा तस्मात् त्वमुत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्व जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्ष्व राज्यं समृद्धं मयैवैते निहता पूर्वमेव निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन् द्रोणं च भीष्मं च जयद्रथं च कर्णं तथान्यान् अपि योधवीरान् मया हतांस्त्वं जहिमा व्यतिष्ठा युध्यस्व जेतासि रणे सपत्नान् सञ्जय उवाच एतत् श्रुत्वा वचनं केशवस्य कृताञ्जलिर्वेपमानः किरीटी नमस्कृत्वा भूय एवाह कृष्णं सगद्गदं भीतभीतप्रणम्य अर्जुन उवाच स्थाने हृषीकेश तव प्रकीर्त्या जगत्प्रहृष्यत्यनुरज्यते च रक्षांसि भीतानि दिशो द्रवन्ति सर्वे नमस्यन्ति च सिद्धसङ्गा कस्माश्च तेन न मेरन्महात्मन् गरीयसे ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास त्वमक्षरं सद् असत् तत्परं यत् त्वामादिदेव पुरुषः पुराणस्त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानं वेत्तासि वेद्यं च परं च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूप वायुर्यमोऽग्निर्वरुणः शशाङ्ख प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहश्च नमो नमस्तेऽस्तु सहस्रकृत्वा पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते नमः पुरस्तादथ पृष्ठतस्ते नमोऽस्तु ते सर्वत एव सर्व अनन्तवीर्यामितविक्रमस्त्वं सर्वं समाप्नोषि ततोऽसि सर्व सखेति मत्वा प्रसभं यदुक्तं हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति अजानता महिमानं तवेदं मया प्रमादात् प्रणयेन वापि यश्चावहासार्थमसत्कृतोऽसि विहारशय्यासनभोजनेषु एकोऽथवाप्यच्युत तं समक्ष्यं तत्क्षामये त्वामहमप्रमेयम् पितासि लोकस्य चराचरस्य त्वमस्य पूज्यश्च गुरुर्गरीयान् न त्वत्समोऽस्त्यभ्यधिकस्कुतोऽन्यो लोकत्रयेऽप्यप्रतिमभ्रभाव तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायं प्रसादये त्वामहमीशमीड्यं पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्युः प्रियः प्रियायार्हसि देव शोधुम् अदृष्टपूर्वं हृषितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा भयेन च प्रव्यथितं मनो मे तदेव मे दर्श्य देवः रूपं प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास किरीटनं गदिनं चक्रहस्तम् इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुमहं तथैव तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते श्रीभगवानुवाच मया प्रसन्नेन तवार्जुनेदं रूपं परं दर्शितमात्मयोगा तेजोमयं विश्वमनन्तमाद्यं यन्मे त्वमन्येन न दृष्टपूर्वम् न वेदयज्ञाध्ययनैर्न दानैर्न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रै एवं रूपशक्यहं नृलोके द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीर मा ते व्यथा मा च विमूढभावो दृष्ट्वा रूपं घोरमीदृन्ममेदम् व्यापेतभिप्रीतमनः पुनस्त्वं तदेव मे रूपमिदं प्रपश्य सञ्जय उवाच इत्यर्जुनं वासुदेवस्तथोक्त्वा स्वकं रूपं दर्शयामास भूय आश्वासयामास च भीतमेनं भूत्वो पुनः सौम्य वपुर्महात्मा अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेदं मानुषं रूपं तव सौम्यं जनार्दन इदानीमस्मि संवृत्तः सचेता प्रकृतिं गतः श्रीभगवानुवाच सुदुर्दर्शम् इदं रूपं दृष्ट्वानसि यन्मम देवा अप्यस्य रूपस्य नित्यं दर्शनकाङ्क्षिणः नाहं वेदैर्न तपसा न दानेन च जेच्यया शक्य एवं विधो द्रष्टुं दृष्टवानसि मां यथा भक्त्या त्वनन्यस्य यया शक्या अहम् एवं विधोऽर्जुन ज्ञातुं द्रष्टुं च तत्त्वेन प्रवेष्टुं च परन्तप मत्कर्म कृन्मत्परमो मद्भक्तः सङ्गवर्जितः निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु यः स मामेति पाण्डव ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विश्वरूपो दर्शनयोगो नाम एकादशोऽध्यायः हरि ओम्. Now we'll go back to the translations and let's get a couple of volunteers to read a couple of verses. If you want to read, please raise your hand. All right. And we can have each person read 6 translations. Vibhan, go ahead.
O mighty armed one, All the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form, with those many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth, and they are disturbed. So am I. And as they are disturbed, so am I. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouth, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also, are rushing into your fearful mouths. And some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths.
I, I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths, as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides, with your flaming mouths covering all the universe with your effulgence. You are manifest with terrible scorching rays. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All soldiers here on both sides will be slain.
Therefore get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachi, can be put an instrument in the fight. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadrata, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folded hands again and again. He fearfully spoke to Lord Krishna in a faltering voice as follows. Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid and they flee here and there. All of this is rightly done. O Great One, greater than even Brahma, you are the original creator. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances unto you? O Limitless One, God of gods, refugee of the universe. You are the invisible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation. O Great One, greater than even... Oh, you are the original personality of Godhead, the oldest, the ultimate sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You are the knower of everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are the supreme refuge above all the material worlds. O limitless form, this whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you.
You are air and you are the supreme controller. You are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times and again and yet again. Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything. Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. You are the Father of this complete cosmic manifestation, of the moving and the non-moving. You are its worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is greater than you, nor can anyone be with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power? You are the Supreme Lord, to be worshipped by every living being. Thus, I fall down to offer you my respectful obeisances and ask your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, a friend the impertinence of a friend, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done you. After seeing this and after seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time, my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead. O Lord of Lords, abode the universe.
O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, happily have to shown you, by my eternal potency, this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine, for neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances, and I can be seen in this form in the material world. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, O Janardana, seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, I am now composed in my mind, and I restored to my original nature.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. The form that you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and thus can be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculations, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me.
Thank you, Dharani Radha, and everyone else who also read the translations to this chapter. It's a really great chapter, in my opinion. A lot of glorification of Krishna as well as form. And now I will hand it off to Adri, no, or Parth, was it? Who wanted to do next activity. Parth, go ahead.
Hare Krishna will be reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita Mangalacharna in honor of Nityananda Trayadashi, which happened yesterday. So once we get that pulled up, we can read, I'll read the Sanskrit and then we can go back and have volunteers read the translations. Vande Guru Nisha Bhaktan Ishameshavataраkan Tat Prakasham Shashak Chakti Krishna Chaitanya Samyakam Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gododai Pushpavanto Chitra Shando Tamonudo Yadadvaitam Brahmupanishadi Tadyapyasatanubha Yanmantaryami Purusha iti Syosham Vivaha Sadaishvarya Punar Yab Iha Bhagavan Sasvayamayam Na Chaitanyat Krishna Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha Anarpita Charim Chirat Karuna Vartina Kalau Samarpayutu Munato Jala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadampa Sandipita Sadaridaye Kandare Sfuratu Vasachinandana Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shakti Rasmad Ekatmana Vapi Bhuvi Pura Deham Bedam Git Katautau Chaitanyakyam Prakatamaduna Tadvayam Chaikyamaptam Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho Vanayaiva Svadyo Yena Bhuta Madhurima Kidrisho Va Madiya Saukyam Chasya Madanubhavata Kidrisham Veti Lobhat Tadbhavadya Samajani Sachi Garbhasindhu Harindu Sankarshana Karanatoya Shai Garbhodashai Chapayogdishai Sheshaschayam Sam Shakalachanitya Nandakya Rama Saranam Mamastu Mayatite Vyapi Vaikuntaloke Punashvarishi Chaturvyuha Madhye Rupam Yasyo Bhati Sankarshanakhyam Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Maya Bharta Janda Sanghakshanaya Sete Shakshad Karanam Bodhi Madhye Yasyaikam Shashi Pumanadi Devas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Yasyam Samsha Shila Garbhodashai Yannabhyabjam Lokha Sanghatanalam Lokha Shashru Shruti Kadhama Dhatus Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Yashyam Samsa Paratma Khilanam Poshta Vishnur Bhati Dugdabdishai Shauni Bharta Yatkala Shaupyanantas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Mahavishnur Jagat Karta Mayaya Yashjadyada Tashyavataramevayam Advaitacharyam Ishvara Advaitad Harinadvaitad Acharyam Bhakti Samshanad Bhaktavatarami Tam Advaitacharyam Ashraye Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvasya Padam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Shriman Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtali Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambhi Vamshiva Tatatastita Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestunaha Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda Etin Thakur Goriya ke Kariya Atmasat Etinera Charan Vandon Tine Moranat Tit Gantera Ramvikari Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinera Smarana Tinera Smarana Hoy Vigna Vinashana Anayase Haya Nija Vanshita Purana. Thank you so much. I think we can have 7 volunteers do 3 verses each for translations. And we'll start with Pooja.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Ganda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Do I read one more verse?
Yep.
Okay. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna himself, full of 6 opulences, he is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him.
May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in this age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves. Now, these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him, who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean.
May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshan, Sheshanag, and the Vishnus who lie on the Karna ocean. Garbha ocean and the ocean of milk are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Sankarshan in the midst of the Chaturbhu consisting of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha, far beyond the material creation. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose partial representation, called Karana Dakshai Vishnu, lying on the Karana ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of the illusory energy and the shelter of all the universes.
I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, a partial part of whom is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu sprouts the lotus that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of the universe. The stem of that lotus is the resting place of the multitude of planets. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose secondary part is the Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk. Dakshai Vishnu is the supersoul of all living entities and the maintainer of all the universes. Sheshanaga is his further self-part. Lord Advaitacharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya.
Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotees. Therefore, I take shelter of him. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madana Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me.
In the Temple of Jewels in Vrindavana, underneath the desire tree, Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Sri Srila Gopinatha, who originated the transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands on the shore of Vamshivata and attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura or Chaitanya.
These three deities of Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires.
Thank you so much, everyone, for reading. I had a wonderful time reading Mangalacharan today with all of you. And next, we'll be moving on to Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and I'll hand it off to Adhiraj to take us through that.
Yes, thank you, Parth. So we will be continuing reading from the Lilamrita where we left off. So as soon as we get that on, maybe we could read about 2 paragraphs each. You can raise your hand to read. I'll start with the first 2 paragraphs and then we'll just go with whoever's raised their hand and we'll see how long we can go for. His walks on Hester would sometimes take him into Little Italy, which overlaps Chinatown at Mulberry Street. In this neighborhood, places like Chinese pork products and the Mi Jung Mi supermarket stood alongside Umberto's Clam House and the Puglia restaurant, advertising cappuccino alla Puglia, coffee from Puglia. His walks west of Bowery into Chinatown in Little Italy were mainly for shopping, but he also noted prospective sites for a temple. Chatham Tower on Chatham Square particularly drew his attention. Sometimes he would walk in the opposite direction as far as the East River and Brooklyn Bridge. But when a friend warned him that a sniper had been firing at strollers along the river, he stopped going there. Art?
Despite the bad neighborhood where Prabhupada lived and walked, he was rarely disturbed. Often he would find several Bowery bumps asleep or unconscious at his door, and he would have to step over them. Sometimes a drunk, simply out of his inability to maneuver, would bump into him, or a derelict would mutter something unintelligible or laugh at him. The more sober ones would stand and gesture courteously, ushering the Swami into or out of his 90 no, into or out of his door at 94 Bowery. He would pass among them, acknowledging their good manners as they cleared his path. Certainly, few of the Bowery men and others who saw him on his walks knew much about the small elderly Indian sadhu dressed in saffron and carrying an umbrella and a brown grocery sack.
Sometimes Prabhupada would meet one of his new friends on the street. Jan, Michael Grant's girlfriend, met him on several occasions as he was out walking. Jan, I would see him in the midst of this potpourri of people down there, walking down the street. He always had an umbrella, and he would always have such a serene look on his face. He would just be talking. He would just be taking his afternoon jaunts, walking along, sometimes stepping over the drunks. I would always get sort of nervous but I would meet him on the sidewalk. He would say, "Are you chanting?" And I would say, "Sometimes." And then he would say, "That's a good girl." Sitting cross-legged, his back to the shelf with an assortment of potted plants, a whitish chadar wrapped in wide, loose folds across his body, Prabhupada looked grave, almost sorrowful. The picture and an accompanying article appeared in a June issue of the Village Voice. The article read,
The meeting of the mystical West and practical East comes alive in the curious contrast between A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami and his American disciples. The Swami, a cultivated man of 70 with a distinguished education, is here for a year to preach his gospel of peace, goodwill, nearness to God, and more practically, to raise money for his American church. Like his teachings, the Swami is sensible and direct. His main teaching is that mankind may come closer to God by reciting his holy name. Despite the fact that the Swami came to America to seek out the root of godless materialism, a disease, he said, that has already enveloped India, he is a realistic man. If there is any place on earth with the money to build a temple, it is here. The Swami wishes to found in America an international society for Krishna consciousness, which will be open for anyone, including women.
The article had been written by Howard Smith. He had heard first of the Swami by a phone call from a contact who had told him of an interesting holy man from India living in a loft in Bowery. Go there any time. Howard's contact had told him he's always there, and I think you'll find it fascinating. I believe he's about to start a major religious movement. Howard Smith. So I went down there and upstairs into this very funky artist loft. There were carpets all over the place, old and worn out, and a lot of the people sitting around in various kinds of hippie garb. Plus, what I think they must have thought was an Indian garb. Most of them were sitting alone around the room facing the wall like they had nothing to do with each other. They were all sitting cross-legged and each one seemed to be doing something different. Nobody paid any attention to me when I walked in.
I saw shoes lined up, and I thought maybe I'm supposed to take off my shoes, but nobody said anything to me. So I walked around the edge of the carpet, looking for somebody to pay attention to me. I wondered what was going on, and I didn't want to interrupt anybody because they all seemed deep in whatever kind of prayers they were doing. In the back of the loft, I noticed a little curtain, an Indian madras type of curtain. and so I decided I'd peer into that area. I looked in, and there was Swami Bhaktivedanta sitting there cross-legged in saffron garments, with the markings on his forehead and nose, and his hand in his bead bag. Even though he looked like the real thing, he seemed more approachable, and I said, "Hello," and he looked up. I said, "Swami Bhaktivedanta?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "I am Howard Smith." And I was expecting to sit down, so I said, "Excuse me, I have to take off my shoes." And he said, "Why do you want to take off your shoes?" I said, "I don't know. I saw all the shoes out there." And he said, "I didn't ask you to take your shoes off." I said, "What are all those people out there doing?" And he said, "I don't know. And they don't know what they're doing. I'm trying to teach them, and they seem to be misunderstanding me. They are very confused people."
And we sat and talked, and I liked him a lot right away. I mean, I'd met a lot of people, other Swamis, and I didn't like them too much. And I don't think it's fair to lump them all together and say, those Swamis in India, because he was very, very basic. And that's what I seemed to like about him. He not only made me feel at ease, but he also seemed very open and honest. He asked my advice on things. He was very new in the country. I thought his idea stood a good chance of taking hold, because he seemed so practical. His head didn't seem in the clouds. He was talking mysticism in every third word. I guess that is where his soul was at, but that isn't where his normal conversational consciousness was at.
Then he said several people had told him that the voice would be a very good place to be written up, and that basically it would reach the kind of people who already perhaps had a leaning or interest in what he was preaching. And I said that I thought he was correct. He asked me if I had read any books or knew anything about Indian culture, and I said no. I didn't really. We talked a little, and he explained to me that he had these books in English that he had already translated in India. And he handed those to me and said, "If you want more background, you can read these." It was obvious to me that I was not talking to some fellow who had just decided that he had seen God and was going to tell people about it. He seemed to be an educated man, much more than myself, actually, and I liked his humbleness. I just plain liked the guy. He explained everything I wanted to know, the significance of what he was wearing, the mark on his forehead, the bead bag, and I liked all of his explanations. Everything was very practical. Then he talked about temples all over the world, and he said, "Well, we've got a long way to go, but I am very patient." Prabhupada had hopes for what the Voice article referred to as his American church. There was life in his lectures and kirtans, and at least he was acquiring a small, regular following. But from India, where there was no hope, he had continued corresponding with Sumati Morarji, his godbrothers, and the Indian central government, but their replies had not been encouraging.
In the faith that Padampat Singhania would agree to his plans for a Krishna temple in Manhattan and finance its construction, Prabhupada had petitioned New Delhi to sanction the release of foreign exchange. He had written to the Reserve Bank of India, New Delhi, "I want to establish this cultural center, and for this I wish to get some exchange from India. I think there are good prospects all over the world for propagating the culture of how to love God in these ways of forgetfulness." A month later, a month later, the Indian Bank had advised him to resubmit his request through the Indian Embassy in Washington to the finance minister of the Indian central government. Prabhupada had complied, and another month had passed with no word from the government.
One of his godbrothers had written that Swamiji should come back to India and work personally to get the government sanction. But Prabhupada didn't want to leave America now. He wrote to Srimati Morarji, "I am trying to avoid the journey to India and again coming back, especially for the reason that I am holding at the above address classes thrice a week and training some American youth in the matter of Sankirtan and devotional service to the Lord. Some of them are taking the lessons very sincerely, and in the future they may be very good Vaishnavas according to the rigid standards."
One day, a curious, unsolicited correspondent wrote to Prabhupada from India. His name was Mukti Brahmachari, Introducing himself as the disciple of one of Prabhupada's godbrothers and reminding Prabhupada of their past slight acquaintance, Mukti wrote of his eagerness to join Prabhupada in America. Certainly, Prabhupada still had hopes for getting assistance from his godbrothers in India. This mission is simply not one man's work. Therefore, he invited Mukti to come to America and asked him to request his guru to cooperate by working personally to secure government sanction for the release of foreign exchange. Mukti wrote back, reaffirming his eagerness, but expressing doubt that his spiritual master would give him permission. Mukti thought he should first come to the United States and then request his spiritual master's help. Prabhupada was annoyed, and he sent an immediate reply. Is preaching in America my private business? Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted to construct some temples in foreign countries as preaching centers of the message of Srila Rupa Raghunath. And I'm trying to do this in this part of the world. Footnote, Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami were the two leading disciples of Lord Chaitanya in the 16th century. The money is ready and the opportunity is open. If by seeing the finance minister, this work can be facilitated, why should we wait because you cannot talk with your Guru Maharaj about cooperation because you are afraid your journey will be cancelled? Please do not think in that way. Take everything as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's work and try to do the needful. Do not think for a moment that my interest is different from that of your Guru Maharaj. We are executing the will of Srila Prabhupada according to your own capacity. A combined effort would have been far better. Mukti submitted the entire proposal before his spiritual master, who, as Mukti predicted, cancelled the trip. Although Mukti's guru was Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, he did not want to be involved, and he doubted that Prabhupada would actually get a donation from Padampat Singhani.
And now Mukti Brahmakri also doubted if your program is not bona fide, the approach to a big personality will be a ludicrous one, no doubt. On the same day that Prabhupada received the ludicrous letter, he also received the final blow of non-cooperation from the Indian government. Second Secretary Prakash Shah of the Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C. wrote, due to exceeding conditions of foreign exchange stringency, it is not possible for the government of India to accede to your request for release of foreign exchange. You may perhaps like to raise funds from residents in America. It was confirmed Prabhupada would have to work without outside help. He would continue alone in New York City. His last letter to Mukti Brahmakri reveals his deep faith and determination.
So the controversy is now closed, and there is no need of help from anyone else. We are not always successful in our attempts at preaching work, but such failures are certainly not ludicrous. In the absolute field, both success and failure are glorious. Even Lord Nityananda pretended to be a failure at converting Jagai and Mandai in the first attempt. Rather, he was personally injured in such an attempt, but that was certainly not ludicrous. The whole thing was transcendental and it was glorious for all parties concerned. If Krishna consciousness was ever to take hold in America, it would have to be done without assistance from the Indian government or Indian financiers. Not even a lone Indian brahmachari would join him. Krishna was revealing his plan to Prabhupada in a different way. With the Singhania sanction schemes finished and behind him, Prabhupada would turn all his energy toward the young men and women coming to him in his bounded loft. He wrote to Srimati Morarji, I am now trying to incorporate one corporation of the local friends and admirers under the name International Society for Krishna Consciousness Incorporated.
Of all his friends and admirers, Prabhupada gave his roommate, David Allen, the most personal attention and training. He felt he was giving David a special chance to become America's first genuine Vaishnava. Prabhupada would eventually return to India, and he wanted to take David to Vrindavana. He would show him to worship and train him for future preaching in the West. He had requested Srimati Morarji to provide free passage for David as well as for himself. You will be pleased to see this American boy. He is coming of a good family and is a sincere soul to this line of culture. There are others also in this class that I am holding here, but I wish to take with me.
I'm very glad to say, Prabhupada said in one evening lecture, that our Mr. David says sometimes, Swamiji, I want to increase my spiritual life immediately. Prabhupada laughed as he imitated David's urgency. Take patience, I tell him. It will be done, of course. When you have got such desire, God will help you. He is within you. He's simply trying to see how sincere you are. Then he will give you all opportunities to increase your spiritual life. At first, David and the Swami lived together peacefully in the large hall, the Swami working concentratedly on his side of the partition, David ranging throughout the large open space. David, however, continued taking marijuana, LSDs, and amphetamines, and Prabhupada had no choice but to tolerate it. Several times he told David that drugs and hallucinations would not help spiritual life, but David would look distracted. He was becoming estranged from the Swami. But Prabhupada had a plan to use the loft as a temple, to transform it into New York's first temple of Radha Krishna, and he wanted David's cooperation. Although the neighborhood was one of the most miserable in the world, Prabhupada talked of bringing deities from Jaipur or Vrindavan and starting a temple workshop, even on the Bowery. He thought David might help. After all, they were roommates, so there could be no question of David's not cooperating, but he would have to give up his bad habits.
Prabhupada was trying to help David, but David was too disturbed. He was headed for disaster, and so were Prabhupada's plans for the loft. Sometimes, not even under the influence of a drug, he would pace around the loft. Other times, he would appear to be deep in thought. One day, on a dose of LSD, he went completely crazy. As Carl Jurgens put it, he just flipped out, and the Swami had to deal with a crazy man. Things had been leading to this. He was a crazy kid who always took too much. But the real madness happened suddenly. Swamiji was working peacefully at his typewriter when David freaked out. David started moaning and pacing around the large open area of the loft. Then he began yelling, howling, and running all around. He went back to where the Swami was. Suddenly, Prabhupada found himself face to face, not with David, nice David, whom he was going to take to India and show the Brahmanas in Vrindavan, but a drugged, wild-eyed stranger, a madman. Prabhupada tried to speak to him. What is the matter? But David had nothing to say. There was no particular disagreement, just madness.
Prabhupada moved quickly down the 4 flights of stairs. He had not stopped to gather up any of his belongings or even to decide where he would go or whether he would return. There had been no time to consider anything. He had taken quite a shock, and now he was leaving the arena of David's madness. The usual group of bums were sitting in the doorway, and with their customary flourish of courtesy, they allowed him to pass. They were used to the elderly swamis coming in and out, going shopping and returning, and they didn't bother him. But he was not going shopping today. Where was he going? He didn't know. He had come onto the street without knowing where he would go. He wasn't going back to the loft, that for sure. But where could he go? The pigeons flew from roof to roof, traffic rumbled by, and the ever-present bums loitered about, getting drunker on cheap, poisonous alcohol. Although Prabhupada's home had suddenly become an insane terror, the street at its door was also a hellish, dangerous place. He was shaken. He could call Dr. Mishra's and they might take him in, but that chapter of his life was over, and he had gone on to something better. He had his own classes, young people chanting and hearing. Was it all over now? After 9 months in America, had he finally gotten a good response to his preaching and he had finally gotten a good response to his preaching in Kirtan. He couldn't just quit now.
A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaja, whom everyone knew and respected in Vrindavana as a distinguished scholar and devotee. Who had an open invitation to see the Vice President of India and many other notables, who now had to face starkly that he not had one friend of stature in the United States. Suddenly, he was as homeless as any derelict in the street. In fact, many of them, with their long-time berths in flop houses, were more secure than he. They were ruined but settled. The Bowery could be chaotic if you weren't on a very purposeful errand, going directly to the store or back to your place. It was no place to stand wondering where you'll live or is there a friend to turn to. He wasn't on his way to Chinatown to shop, nor was he taking a little stroll, soon to return to the shelter of the loft. If he couldn't go to the loft, he had no place. How difficult was it becoming a preach in America amid these crazy people? He had written prophetically in his poem, the day that he arrived in Boston Harbor, my dear Lord, I don't know why you have brought me here. Now you can do me with whatever you like, but I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? What about his scheduled classes? What about David? Should he go back and try to talk with the boy? This has been David's first fit of violence, but there had been other tense moments. David had a habit of leaving the soap on the floor of the shower stall, and Prabhupada asked him not to because it was a hazard. But David wouldn't listen. Prabhupada had continued to remind him, and one day David had gotten angry and shouted at him. But there was no real enmity. Even today's incident had not been a matter of personal differences. The boy was a victim.
Prabhupada walked quickly. He had free passage on the Scindia line. He could go home to Vrindavan, but his spiritual master had ordered him to come here. By the strong desire of Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had written while crossing the Atlantic, the holy name of Lord Gauranga will spread throughout all the countries of the Western world. Before nightfall, he would have to find some place to stay, a way to keep up the momentum of his preaching. This is what it meant to be working without government sponsorship, without the support of any religious organization, without a patron. It meant being vulnerable and insecure. Prabhupada faced the crisis as a test from Krishna. The instruction of Bhagavad Gita was to depend on Krishna for protection. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. You will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. He decided to phone Carl Jurgens and ask him to help. Hearing the Swami's voice on the phone, it was an emergency. Carl at once agreed that Prabhupada could move in with him and his wife Ava. Their place was close by on Center Street, 5 blocks west of Bowery near Chinatown. Carl would be right over.
After from Prabhupada, they went straight to Carl's place, an 8-hour loft, smaller than the one Prabhupada had been living in. It had a main living area, large and open, with areas for the kitchen and bedroom partitioned off. There were decorative indoor plants and a fusion of throw pillows placed all around. Carl's loft was much bigger than the dingy factory-like space in the loft on the Bowery. The floor was painted bright orange. Carl used to say it looked like the deck of a ship. The ceiling were white, and light from the 7 skylights filled the room. Carl and Eva settled in one corner. Prabhupada had left his belongings at David's loft and didn't want to go back, so Carl went over to pick up a few essential items. Prabhupada asked him to leave most of his things, including his books, suitcases, and reel-to-reel tape recorder, where they were.
Which paragraph are we at? Sorry.
Start from although by this time.
Okay. Although by this time David had come down from the intense effects of the LSD, he remained crazy. When Carl arrived at the loft, the door was locked and David was inside, afraid to let anyone in, although he finally relented. He had shut and locked all the windows, making the loft oppressively hot and stuffy. Bill Epstein, who also came by that time, analyzed David as having had an drug-induced nervous breakdown, a narcopsychosis. And although David was sorry that he had exploited the Swami, neither Bill nor Carl thought Prabhupada should live with David again. Apparently, Prabhupada's chances of making the loft into a Radha Krishna temple were finished. Carl and Bill gathered up a few of the Swami's belongings, and David stayed behind in the loft. He wanted to be alone. Carl Jurgens knew that Prabhupada's living habits and wanted to accommodate him with a suitable place to live and work. In a small alcove at one end of the loft, Carl had a small study, which he allocated for the Swami. Carl also set up a cushioned dais and arranged the living room around it so guests could sit on the floor in a semicircle. Carl's wife, who didn't really like the idea of having a Swami moved in, agreed to cover a few cushions with Indian Madras material for him anyways.
I think I'll read these next two paragraphs and then we can end it there since it's almost 4:10. If you wanted to read, then hopefully you'll come back next week and we'll have some more reading for you. Things went smoothly for a while. Prabhupada continued his morning and evening classes, and many of the Bowery hip crowd came by. 3 of his regular callers lived right in the same building, and a few others, including Carl's brother, were just around the block. Michael, Grant, James Green, even David Allen came once. Don Nathanson, an artist. I was at Carl's loft, and the Swami comes strolling in one day, so I already knew he was on the scene, from David's. Mostly musicians were coming. They were enjoying the private morning session with him. And that's really strange in itself, because these people were up almost all night, and he used to do it at 6 in the morning, for 1 hour. He would lead them in chanting with his hand symbols, dot dot da, dot dot da. It was strange, because that crowd was heavy into drugs and they were well read. But for a short period they used to go every morning, 9 or 10 of them, and they felt very good about it. They felt very good that they did that in the morning. Oh, that's it. Thank you for reading, everyone. We will now do a bit of discussion before we leave. Did anything from the reading or from any of the verses that we read earlier today stick out to you? Can anyone recall something that you were maybe thinking about as we were going along the program? Sia?
So, this might be a little far-fetched, but at the beginning of the chapter, like when we started reading, how uh, I forgot who came in, but I think someone came in and thought that, oh, we had to take our shoes off. And when he went to Prabhupada and was asking to take his shoes off, Prabhupada was like, I didn't ask anyone to take their shoes off. Everyone's just confused. It made me think about how, like, it's like those people were confused because they didn't have instruction from Prabhupada, who's like could be their guru, and they were just trying to do what they thought was right. So it's like us when we're like reading scriptures or we're doing our sadhana, if we don't have like instruction from a guru, we can also be confused and accidentally do the wrong things, even though our intention might be good. So that's why it's like so important to have a guru. So I was thinking about that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes, that was such a great point. I think it's important to have mentors and teachers who we can ask, as well as association in general. If we associate with the devotees, then we can learn a lot from them and their actions and their realizations. So I think that was a very powerful point that you brought up. Thank you. Dharani Radha.
Hare Krishna. While reading the Lilamrit, when Prabhupada said, when he told Carl, I was just wondering when he told Carl to like leave everything there. I'm just curious, if anyone can answer like why he told him to leave everything there, because I doubt he was planning to go back, and even Bill and Carl both said that it's not safe to go back now because David is on drugs and LSD and like marijuana, LSD, just different drugs that could cause like something even worse next time if he keeps doing it. And Prabhupada wanted to turn the loft into a Radha Krishna temple, and since that's not possible now, like I'm just wondering like why he told them to keep his stuff there, because there's also the risk that David could have like another like fit and then like ruin everything and like destroy it.
Does anyone know? Has anyone read anything about this? Maybe it'll be later in the Lilamrita, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's an interesting point. Part?
I really liked how Prabhupada, it doesn't matter about the person, he just wanted the person to chant the holy names of the Lord. So like David, he tried his best, even though he was under the effects of LSD. He wanted David to remember Krishna, chant, and that was the same way how Nityanand Prabhu did to Jagai Madai. Doesn't matter who the person was, he made them chant. And then he knew if they chant, everybody will chant. Because they know that, oh wow, then this prayer is actually the prayer that we need to go to.
Thank you. That was a really nice point, especially tying it up to Nityanand Prabhu, who was actually mentioned in the Lilamrita when they were saying that Prabhupada had a lot of determination, just like Nityanand Prabhu, who wasn't successful in his first attempt, and he even got attacked by Jagai and Madai, but he kept trying until he was able to save them. So thank you for reminding us of that pastime as well. Vivan?
Hare Krishna. So, I just wanted to add on to Parth's point because I had something that I wanted to share. So, he mentioned that Nityanand Prabhu had so much determination that he kept going back to Jagai and Madai. Even on the first time when he was like, oh, like Jagai and Madai were like, oh, why are you instructing us? We know everything already, right? And if you recall, Haridas Thakur, he was also there. And Haridas Thakur was really not looking forward to going back because he couldn't run. He was like really old, and he was telling Nityanand Prabhu, "You're mad. You're mad. Why are you trying to preach to these drunkards?" And it really shows like Haridas Thakur, one of the most greatest devotees who has so much determination and sadhana. Even he was afraid to go back to Jagai and Madai and uh, preach to them and try to bring them to Krishna consciousness. But Lord Nityananda, he was so determined and he wanted them to have love of God. Doesn't matter who you are, he wants everyone to have love of God. That he kept going again and again to Jagai and Madai and even endured them hitting him with a clay pot and stuff like that to ensure that everyone has love of God. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. That was really powerful. And I think Nityanand Prabhu was showing the embodiment of what a spiritual master does. Just like Prabhupada also embodied that mood that he wanted everyone to chant the holy name, no matter who they were. He had no discrimination or distinction. Thank you. Pooja?
So I don't really have that much, but like like Prabhupada kept on trying and stuff, and he just wanted like people to chant, be really connected to God, and then he was not like really fancy in character, but like he was very just simple and like plain, but like in a good way, and he just like he was very connected to God and stuff, and he just wanted everyone to be like have like a love and like have like a connected thing with like God.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I think that was an important point that you brought up, that he was living a very simple life. Prabhupada always said, plain living, high thinking. And Krishna consciousness is a very simple process. The two main facets of it are to chant Hare Krishna and teach it to others, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught many people during his travels, and Srila Prabhupada also embodied. So I like the point that you brought up, that it's a very simple but very effective and powerful process. Thank you for that. Vrinda?
Hare Krishna. I feel like this chapter really shows how Srila Prabhupada completely depended on Krishna and how much like faith he had, and like he really didn't depend on like money, like followers, or like any sort of comfort. And even when like situations looked like uncertain or like were difficult, like when Carl was like drunk and everything, he moved on with faith and not with fear, and he had like that trust in Krishna's plan even when outcomes weren't that clear.
Yeah, thank you. I think that shows that Prabhupada was an embodiment of Sarva Dharman Parityaja. He surrendered everything to Krishna. And Krishna says, Ma Shachaha. He had no fear. He had so much determination in all his endeavors, and he had complete faith in Krishna. Chaitanya Nityanam. Hare Krishna. I just was reflecting on the part of this reading where it said, once Prabhupada realized he wouldn't really have to go or couldn't go back to David, to the loft where David was, and he called Carl Jurgens. It was like hearing the Swami's voice on the phone. It was an emergency, he realized. So it was like, I'm just trying to visualize or trying to imagine how Prabhupada's voice would have been, or like his mood at that time would have been, because we hear so many um like any recordings or anything like that where Prabhupada is giving a class or some morning talk or like, morning walk or those kind of conversations. And mostly like my experience just hearing Prabhupada's voice is he's instructing, or he's very confident and kind of strong in his talking. So it's like very unusual for me to see this, like this, read this implication that, Prabhupada kind of sounded concerned and worried in the sense that it was an emergency. So, because we read so much as well, and based on between the things we hear and the things we read, that in Prabhupada's books, like I thought I would be able to, be able to hear his voice in the words that I'm reading in these books. But it's really interesting now. I still realize that, I don't fully know Prabhupada's, full range of, uh, I guess, emotions or feelings when he's writing these things down, because obviously most of them are instructions or directly uh, commentaries on these scriptures, but it's not necessarily his personal feelings. So it's like really just interesting to hear that part of the reading. Thank you, Chaitanya. I think it serves as a reminder of all the turmoil that Prabhupada went through. But despite all that, he presented his teachings in a very sober way, and he was able to instruct his disciples in such a way, despite having gone through so much in his personal life. So that gave me a sense of appreciation. Thank you. Dharni Radha.
I just wanted to add based off of what a couple people previously said. So someone mentioned that Nityanand Prabhu is like the representative of like our guru, right? Because he's so merciful. And they also mentioned that Prabhupada, like he was like extremely merciful, and he was concerned for everyone. And I just he's also strict sometimes, and that reminded me how like in any avatar Nityananda Prabhu, like as Anantashesh, he always represents the guru, because I know I like watched this Ramayana show recently, and there was, I'm trying to remember, but there was this one Leela where Lakshman was correcting someone. I think he was correcting Hanuman or something. And he was like very strict, and it was because he represents the guru, and I think like the person he was correcting, they had like done something wrong, and he like wrong as in I think they had good intentions, but they like went against his word. I don't exactly remember the Leela, but so then Lakshman like fiercely like told him off, and he's like, "No, you can't do that." Oh no, no, it was Sugriv. It was Sugriv. Basically, during when they were looking for Sita, they were about to like they found Sugriv, and then they were about to go look for Sita, but then the rainy season was coming, and Sugriv said, "Well, I can't take my Vanasena through the rainy season. This is like the time where everyone, like the wives, need their husbands at home." So then Ram is like, he sacrificed that time that where he could have been looking for Sita. He said, "Okay, we'll wait these 4 months out. You guys go through the rainy season, then we'll leave." But then at the end of the rainy season, Sugriv, I think he became like he was a little I think he was like drinking a little bit, or something. So then he didn't take his words seriously, and he didn't start like immediately like he's like okay he didn't go take his Vanasena to go search for Sita, and so then Lakshman went to him, and like he strictly like reprimanded him. He's like, you shouldn't be drinking. What are you doing? We need to go look. You gave us your word, and you gave your word that you're going to help us look for Sita after the rainy season's over. And now it's over, and we've been waiting 4 months. My brother's like waiting for, he's like lost his wife, and we waited for you, and now it's your turn to come and like help us. And so then my mom, she told me, she's like, see, this is Lakshman. He's representing the guru, because you shouldn't have, your guru shouldn't be coming to you and telling you to get up and take you. You should go to you should take your guru's word seriously, and you should uh follow through with your word, like the promise you gave your guru. Your guru shouldn't be coming to you like kind of spoon feeding you. So like I was just like comparing in my head, like in his previous avatar, he as Lakshman, he was very strict. In this Nityananda Prabhu avatar, he's very merciful, and like that combination we see in Prabhupada, where he's strict and also very merciful.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's the perfect representation of a guru who is very merciful and kind and compassionate to all living beings, but also nicely instructs his disciples so that they can carry on the mission of Lord Chaitanya in the right way. Mayuri?
Hare Krishna. So, as you said, that Srila Prabhupada is the embodiment of Sarvadharman Prityaja because he was really determined. And whenever he was forced out of David Allen's home because he got a little high on LSD, he didn't know where to go, whether to turn left or right. But even though he did not have a place to go and he was stuck in the worst neighborhood in the world, in the Bowery, he didn't choose to turn back and use his free ship back to Vrindavan. He chose to still persevere to establish this international society of Krishna consciousness. And even though all the people that he had written back to in India, he kept like enticing them and asking them for help and to support him in his mission. None of them agreed, and he was truly alone. But still, he decided that for his Guru Maharaj, he would still persevere. And I think that was really strong because even whenever he was on the ship across the Atlantic and he wrote the poem to Guru Maharaj and to Lord Krishna, he said, just make me dance as you want me to dance. And I think that was really nice because he really had nowhere to go, but he was just depending on his Guru's order. So that's really powerful.
Thank you for speaking on the power of Srila Prabhupada's faith. I think you really encapsulated it very nicely. Does anyone have any last reflections they'd like to share? If not, I will have Chaitanya Nityanam conclude our session today. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Thank you everyone for joining, and this was a really nice session as well. God, after a long time, also reading the Mangala Charan, but also just our general program of reading through the Chad verses and Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita. It's always really enriching. So I'm really happy that we had this session. I guess I'll end off with a prayer, and I'll echo the prayer in the beginning as well, which was in emphasis of the idea that we should have a mood similar to Nityananda Prabhu, or at least try to be inspired by that mood to help other people. And I was thinking about a verse yesterday in a class I heard, which was Bhoktaram Yajñatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Yadvamam Shantim Richati. And it really reminded me of Nityananda Prabhu's mood of just wanting the best for everyone. Because this verse in the Bhagavad Gita says that Krishna is the benefactor and the well-wisher of all living entities. And also Prabhupada, all he wanted was the deliverance of all these people in the Western countries. And Nityananda Prabhu also wanted the same thing. And of course, our Vaishnav Maharaj also ends a lot of his programs with instructing everyone to be a kind friend to all living souls. So trying to echo and imbibe that mood. I'll end off with prayer. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, if you so desire, please let us be inspired by your moods of wanting the best for everyone, anyone who comes into touch with us or any other devotee, to be completely empowered and delivered. Those who join Youth Jam, especially, or those who didn't join Youth Jam, please let everyone have this mood, and so we can all go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna, Om Tat Sat. Thank you for considering this request.
I don't think we can hear you, Chaitanya. But thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you next week. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.